Warning: the following podcast contains graphic content that may be disturbing or triggering to some listeners. Discretion is advised. The Papa Tango Sierra Delta podcast is available free of charge thanks to the support of Cracked Armor.
Their mission is to raise awareness for PTSD, TBI, and mental health to support those who struggle. By creating an army of warriors who represent the gear, their hope is that it will send a message to others that they are not alone.
Go to crackedarmor.com, say hi to Mark Long, read about the story, and find some research information about PTSD. And if you can, look good while supporting Cracked Armor by buying some gear.
(10-9). Did you say Papa Tango Sierra Delta? 10-4.
There's so much left to do, so many things I wanna say, and I say, don't make the change. If it rains every single day, I'll fight to blow it all away.
This is episode 26 of the Papa Tango Sierra Delta podcast. My name is Larry Payton, and I have been diagnosed with complex post-traumatic stress. Just want to start off the episode by thanking all the listeners who have reached out to offer congratulations on my acceptance into the Master of Arts and Counseling Psychology program at Yorkville U. It's exciting. In a matter of a few hours, I am flying out to Winnipeg to attend the World Police and Fire Games. I just want to give thanks to someone who is involved with the World Police and Fire Games. This is Carrie Roller. She is the person who reached out to me back in April to invite me to the games, to have the opportunity to do the podcast there, to record, to speak to the athletes and general public with regards to mental health. To give you an idea of how awesome Carrie is, I'm going to read an email that she sent to me yesterday. This will give you a good idea of why it is I decided to actually attend. I'm concerned about your red-eye flight to Winnipeg and want you to know how much I appreciate your willingness to do this for perfect strangers. I know travel is stressful and you have basically surrendered control of your calendar for days and days, and that is so difficult to do. I haven't booked you a dedicated recording space or a show time, but only so that you have a chance to consider what best suits your needs. We are without any agenda or goal other than increasing the awareness of your podcast and encouraging people to start talking more comfortably about the importance of good mental health. If you have any requirements or desires, please let me know and I'll make them work. We have many venues and spaces at our disposal. Please let me know what I can do to help with this undertaking. Carrie. I mean, talk about actually feeling wanted, feeling validated, feeling appreciated. I mean, those are genuinely important things to all of us. And it just really hit home last night when I got that message from Carrie because, well, it made me feel all those things. It just made me appreciate this opportunity, appreciate the chance to meet Carrie, appreciate the chance to meet the athletes and people of Winnipeg, and be very fucking grateful to continue spreading the word about the importance of mental health. In the meantime, there's going to be some neat things happening this week, so check in with my social media accounts on Instagram, and I'm also going to get the opportunity to meet and hang out with Patrick Gordon. He is the veteran of 3 deployments to Afghanistan who was on a show a little while ago who also discussed his Operation Feed St. John. Patrick is a great guy, and he is actually coming out to Winnipeg with me as kind of an assistant / co-host. So yeah, this is going to be fun. This is going to be fun. Check in on the social media accounts. Reach out to me. I hope you all have a great week. Let's take a quick break. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning into the podcast. If you have experience with post-traumatic stress and would like to join me for an episode, please reach out to me. You can contact me via direct message on Instagram, PTSD_podcast, or you can send me an email at Papa Tango Sierra Delta Podcast @gmail.com. Cheers. And we are back from the break. Thanks for sticking around for the Papa Tango Sierra Delta podcast. On this episode, I am excited to introduce Dawson Creek firefighter Lynette Fritshaw. Lynette, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. It is an honor to be here.
I'm looking forward to this because you and I had a fantastic conversation a couple of weeks ago, and I know there's a lot that you want to say and some things that you want to share, so I'm not going to get in the way of that. And I will just start off by once again asking if you could please introduce yourself and tell us about your journey.
So I've spent 18 years in the fire service. I was 4 years as an auxiliary and have been 14 years career full-time. I was recently promoted to acting captain, which I'm super excited about.
Congratulations.
And I'm also, in the same sentence, retiring in 1 week, which is even more exciting.
And double congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. I am a mom to an incredible 10-year-old boy who keeps me on my toes. I have an amazing husband. We've been married for 11 years. I run a side business as an entrepreneur, teaching crisis intervention and doing trauma coaching. I live for fitness. I live for impacting others. I love nature. I have a dog that keeps me out and about and out of the house. And yeah, I'm just a woman that's starting a brand new journey, and I'm really excited.
It sounds exciting. It sounds very exciting. And I mean, obviously, you know what, being able to do this with your husband and your son, and of course, hey, everyone loves dogs. They better love dogs. Otherwise, you may want to just leave this show.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. This is a very exciting time for you. So, you know, some people may go, okay, well, the kind of concept of retirement is scary, is frightening. What am I going to do next? This is going to change my identity. There's a number of things to take into account. However, there's a lot more to your story as well that needs to be taken into account. So, yeah, tell us about what led you here.
Well, I started doing a deep dive into some personal growth and development, which led me into trauma responding, trauma responses, and came to the realization that I was actually living in a trauma response on a day-to-day basis. It was a really harsh reality check for me. When I started to understand the things that I had experienced had been literally taking over, like you mentioned, identity. I lived in the identity of a firefighter, and I lived in the identity of a mom, and I knew nothing about myself.
Wow, yeah.
And so as I started doing some understanding of trauma responses and the things that I had experienced and how they had taken over my life, how much suffering and sacrifice and pain I was actually in, it was a real eye-opener for me. And it wasn't just skills and things that I was going to use with other people. I had to use them on myself first. And so many people think that a PTSD diagnosis is, you know, a life sentence. And I'm fortunate enough that I don't have the diagnosis, but I can tell you that I have been living in a high functioning PTSD state for a very long time.
Right.
And people don't understand that it just takes one thing on the diagnosis chart for you to not have that full-fledged diagnosis, but you can still be high functioning. And when I look at first responders, so many are in that position, and I was one of them.
That is true. And so what would you see as being different in terms of someone then high functioning versus someone diagnosed?
Education and awareness of where I was and where I am now, and being able to actually have the understanding of what it is that you are living with and how you are actually functioning. And when people understand that they are functioning in a trauma response and not as their true authentic selves, it's a major impact in your own life.
Yeah, it's obviously, for anyone who's listening to this podcast, you know, all kinds of thoughts can come to mind with regards to your traumatic experiences. And although you don't need to speak to any of those, I mean, it's open if you would like, but don't feel the need either. But is it fair to say that all your trauma responses were typical attending calls for service, the things you saw at calls of service, or was there anything else?
You know what I can honestly say, because people would say to me all the time, your job must be so intense and so traumatizing. I don't know how you do it. And I can honestly say that the calls have never impacted me in that way. It was bullying, harassment, and discrimination. I'll just say it out for what it is. I am the first ever and only female in my department. And the things that I experienced right from wanting to become a firefighter is what impacted me the most. And I spent years trying to prove myself. I spent years trying to prove my worth, prove that I was good enough, prove that I was capable, trying to fit in. And I had so many positions of authority through doing all of my work that I've done on myself, came to the understanding that men in authority positions have been, a huge issue for me and the cause of a lot of my trauma. And those that were in positions that were supposed to protect me were the ones that I was actually fighting against the whole time.
That's horrible. That's absolutely horrible. And there's a lot of people that are feeling that harassment and sense of sanctuary trauma and, moral injury with regards to the people in leadership roles. However, you've got the other issue that comes down to apparently gender and misogynistic actions. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. It's sad to say because this isn't, something that happened in the 80s or 90s. Like this is in the late 2000s. It's sad that these are things that we are still dealing with. And the part I think that was hardest for me is those that didn't say anything, those that never stepped up when they seen the things that were happening, when they heard the things that were being said. It was, mental, emotional, and verbal abuse is exactly what it comes down to. And I never wanted to be that girl. I was only, like I said, the first ever and only. So I never wanted to be the problem. I never wanted to be the issue. I never wanted to be the reason. So I just kept quiet and I kept secrets to keep other people comfortable. And I suffered and sacrificed myself, my well-being, my family to be able to keep other people comfortable and keep those things quiet because I never wanted it to be, oh, see, I told you what would happen if we hired a female. Because there was issues going on at the time that I was hired in Richmond, BC. There was 2 women that, were going full lawsuits against the things that were happening to them. I was hearing endless stories of women that committed suicide because of the harassment and bullying and discrimination that they were enduring. And I didn't ever want to be labeled as that girl. So I just stuffed it down and kept quiet. And later on learned that that was what was causing me all of my trauma. It wasn't the calls that I went on. I've seen horrific things. I've been to extremely abnormal events. I've, held deceased infants. I've put body parts in body bags, and none of those things ever bothered me to the extent of the things that I endured mentally, emotionally, and verbally from my own surroundings, my own coworkers, my own brothers, as they're, are known to be. And don't get me wrong, I have worked with some of the best. And I'm honored to say that I got to work with some of those because they were accepting and non-judgmental and compassionate. They were incredible human beings and strong men of honor and knew what the word brotherhood stood for and meant. And then there's always some that, take it to the extreme. And unfortunately, they got away with the shit that they were doing.
Can you share anything in terms of what it was they were doing? And again, I just want you to be comfortable with that. What kinds of things you were experiencing? I mean, this becomes, as a father of a female who was hoping to be a firefighter at some point, this becomes something that I feel that a lot of not just people who have been on the job for a while, but a lot of people who are coming into the job, despite what gender they are, how they identify, as to maybe some things with regards to culture that needs to be understood.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the thing that sticks out the most is my very first day on the job. A senior captain took me aside and said to me, "How exciting for you. This is supposed to be the best day of your life." He said, "But there's something that I need to tell you. There's something you need to know." And I was like, okay. And he said, "We have all had conversations. We are all in agreement. And you just need to know that if you get yourself in any kind of trouble, we're not coming to save you.
Holy
You're on your own.
fuck.
Yeah. And so my very first day, with that in the back of my mind, and I am an outsider. I feel like I have some friends in there. I feel like I have some people that I could trust and, you know, that I kind of know, but I don't know because I'm starting something completely new and I am the outsider. I'm the one and only. So I don't have, you know, somebody else that can not hold my hand, but can reassure me that, you know, it's going to be okay. And so when you're going to calls and in the back of my mind of emergency situations, it's like, don't fuck up. Don't you dare get yourself in a situation because what if nobody comes?
Wow.
Try and thrive in that.
Yeah.
Try and perform at your absolute best ability when you have that playing in the back of your mind.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because you're ultimately, look, the job is stressful enough. And certainly we don't want to be making mistakes on the job. No, of course not, because we don't want to put ourselves in that situation or our teammates or the people with whom we are trying to protect, save the property, whatever. But things happen at times. And sometimes you can be doing the best you possibly could be. You could have sound tactics, a sound strategy to deal with something prior to, but something fucks that up. And all of a sudden, I just want to make sure this is clarified, not only for myself, but for the listeners. All of a sudden, if that burning wall comes down between you and the team, or that tree comes down between you and the team, you were told you're on your own. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was told.
On day one.
And it's not like I am in a position where I can go and, you know, ask others for clarity or be like, is this actually true? Would this really happen? So I'm like, okay, I need to mind everything. I need to be on top of my game. I need to make sure that I never get myself in that situation and, you know, hope for the best. I know now, obviously, even a little bit later on, that there were individuals that would never, ever have allowed that to happen. But in the moment when somebody in a senior position of authority is telling you, this is what we've all decided. And I had already been informed prior that there had been meetings and gatherings and, you know, trying to organize ways for me not to get hired amongst some of the membership. So it was not a secret that I wasn't wanted. It was not a secret that I wasn't welcome by certain people. So then when a certain individual tells you that, it's like, oh, shit, this is serious.
Well, yeah. And that was 14 years ago, you said?
Yep.
So we're not talking.
Yeah, just shy of 14 years. Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to be facetious here, but I just have to say, we're not talking the 80s and we're not talking the mid 90s. We're not talking that at all. Like we're talking, what, 2009?
Yep.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. My very first day, November 9th, 2009.
I can't imagine showing up at my first detachment, feeling completely culture shocked, trying to get a feel for everything, you know, knowing that I'm the newbie and trying to just create that bonding with the other people in the detachment to have been pulled aside by the sergeant and told that they've had discussions already about me and I best not get myself in trouble. Otherwise, you're in that gunfight, but you're all in it alone. You're in it yourself. That is terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. Please tell me that things over the 14 years got significantly better, although I'm feeling that you dealt with a lot more.
They did get significantly better. It was an old boys club, quote unquote, when I first started. And so as retirements happened and things changed, it definitely got better. And like I said, I did work or have worked with some of the absolute best. And the culture has changed a lot. And I feel like it was more of a threat in the fact that I was going to ruin their tough guy image. And so they wanted me to stay small, like the seen and not heard. I was approached by the media when I first got hired saying, you know, because first ever and only female in like all of northern BC, it's a pretty big deal. And I was told that I was absolutely not allowed to speak to any media outlets or anything. So I didn't. me getting hired was never acknowledged or recognized in any way. To me, that's, a shame, because it could have actually boosted them and made them look bigger and better. But
Yeah, absolutely.
they looked at it the opposite. And I was like, well, you guys are stupid, because this could actually make you look even better. But
Yeah.
they refused to allow me to even acknowledge the fact that I was the first. And then I'd been approached by media a couple times, because wanting to know if there was any dirt, wanting to know if there was anything in being the first female. Like, was there any harassment? Was there any bullying? And I was like, no comment, not saying anything.
Right.
Just kept quiet.
Yeah.
And it's funny, because I went on a solo vacation here a little bit ago and was listening to a podcast, and it was talking about being the first in doing something and being recognized as being a legend.
Yep.
And it was almost this instant slap of reality to me. And I thought, holy shit, I'm actually a legend.
It's true.
And I have never, because of pushing it down for so long and suppressing all of the things involved with it, I never actually acknowledged the magnitude of what it was that I accomplished. And I was like, holy man, I am actually a legend. And that is something that they can never take away from me.
No, ma'am, not for a God bless a second. I love it.
Yeah.
I love that you've got that. I love that stays true to you. And that's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
It took me a long time. And I'm like, wow, I actually, went along with all of their stuff. And I can see how, abusive relationships and stuff, because that's, people say, well, why did you stay so long? Why did you not say anything? This is exactly the situation that, I was in to a certain degree. And you just don't. You just put up with it, and you put your head down and you do your job. And all I ever wanted was the opportunity to do something that I was so passionate about and make an impact in my community. It had nothing to do with being a threat or taking over their jobs or, being recognized and getting attention. It was to actually impact other people and make a difference.
Was anyone ever so bold? Because obviously your captain is just referring to, well, you have to save yourself. Not that he's making any clearly definitive, and I'm using air quotes on that, clearly definitive difference between you and the other members of that team. But was there anything that was ever said or shown where it became blatant, absolutely blatant, that this was because you were not the same gender as them?
It was said to my face, you're a really nice girl. Like, I really like you, but you don't belong here.
Yep, that's pretty blatant.
This isn't a place for women.
Yep, that'd be pretty blatant.
Like, you're nice. You're nice. I like you, but I don't want you here.
Wow. That counts. There's no doubt about that. You're nice,
yeah.
but you don't belong here.
Yep.
Wow.
And so I just tried to kill them with kindness. I would just be like, hi, every morning, because I thought, you know what? I'm not ever going to give them the opportunity to say, that I was a bitch or that I was standoffish or anything. It was like, oh, how dare she? She was always nice. She was always cheerful. She was always like, I tried to prove that I just needed or wanted to be there to do a job.
Can you think about a particular, whether it was a fire or a motor vehicle collision or wherever, that something that you did that you're very proud of?
You know what? I have highs in my career that I am so proud of that no one else can ever say that they have as well. A couple years ago, my husband and my son and I were leaving to go on a ski trip. And we were pulling out of our garage in the morning, early wee hours of the morning. And as soon as we pulled out of the driveway, I was like, there is a structure fire. And my husband is like, seriously? I'm like, yep. But we couldn't see the entire street. Like, our neighborhood was so thick with smoke. And we pulled around the corner. We couldn't tell where it was coming from. So we just started honking the horn and pulled into a driveway and went in opposite directions and realized that this house was on fire. The entire backside of the house was fully involved. So we started banging on the door, and we were just about to kick the door in. I'd called down to the fire hall already to get the guys rolling. And all of a sudden the light turned on and a woman was standing at the top of the stairs. So we got inside the house, the entire ceiling. I could see the flames through the pot lights. There's not a stitch of smoke in the house, no smoke detectors, nothing going off. And we were able to rescue a very pregnant woman and 2 little girls. And just as we got them out of the house and the fire truck pulled up, the roof collapsed. It was the absolute highlight of my career, of course. I didn't know them, but we know them on a very personal level now. And something that I can say that I am so honored is that that baby that she had was a little boy, and my husband and I's initials are in his name.
That's amazing. That is absolutely amazing.
And so it is something that I will get to carry with me, and a connection that I will get to have for the rest of my life.
And it's absolutely amazing. And so will that child, when that child gets to learn why his initials are that.
Yeah.
Lynette, this is going to sound preposterous. However, I have to fucking say this, because the acts that you are telling me that you did sound very much like the acts of a competent firefighter, and not just a competent firefighter, a firefighter who is obviously without the gear that you typically would go into that house wearing, went in on her own accord and saved the lives of what ended up being 4 people. That doesn't sound like a competent firefighter. That sounds like a fucking amazing firefighter. But yet you were not considered able to do the job, and you should be somewhere else. However, you're nice.
Yeah.
There's a failure for me to connect here. Like, and I know I'm being preposterous and I'm being extremely facetious, but like, I'm failing to connect how at some point, I don't care who you are, what your gender is, what your color is, what your culture is, what your height is, what your fucking favorite baseball teams. I don't care. There comes a point where you have to go, holy shit, this person is a fucking amazing firefighter. And I'm lucky to have this person as part of the same team that I'm a part of. And yet you continue up until 2023, still dealing with shit. Is that right?
Yeah. And just in regards to that house fire, I was off duty. And when the department officials announced the details about the fire, they stated the number of firefighters that responded, the apparatus that responded, and that the fire was extinguished successfully. That was it.
Oh my.
Zero mention of anything to do with what actually happened until I shared my story with the permission of the homeowners and the people that we had rescued. I allowed them to tell their story first, and then I told my story on my Facebook page, and nobody had any idea until I was able to say it, but they couldn't even acknowledge that as well. So,
wow. And did media ever contact you with regards to that?
They did, and they shared my Facebook story because all of the details and things were in there, but that was as far as it went.
So they never spoke about
shared.
The fact that it was never shared, that there's probably some symbols of misogyny, nothing?
Nothing, no. No, none of that has ever been. This is actually the first time in being able to share a lot of details out loud is with you right here, right now.
Unbelievable. I mean, I can't speak to, again, everyone who's listening, take your own situation and put this concept into your consideration, where you are pulling out of the driveway with your partner, you are off duty, you detect through your skill that there is a threat. Whatever it is, again, in your workplace, there is a threat, there is a need for immediate help. It is an emergency. You undertake what is necessary, and as part of your abilities and your skill set to identify the problem and then insert yourself into the problem to mitigate loss of life, property, whatever. And then the unit for which you work just speaks to the number of people that attended the scene, the equipment that was used, and the damage that it caused. That to me sounds like a slap in the face. Lynette, to me, it's something where this is an opportunity for the fire department to say, hey, this is what female firefighters are capable of. The same shit that a male firefighter is capable of. Let's look at this and be proud of this member of our team. and they just
Mhm.
bypassed that opportunity.
100%. Acted like it barely even happened.
And what year was this?
2019. Sorry, not 2019. It was January 2021.
Again, so we're not talking like dark ages here.
Nope.
How did that sit with you at the time? And I mean, not that I'm asking for you to necessarily say, but I mean, that couldn't have sit very well with your husband either.
Oh, it didn't sit well with anyone in my family.
No.
It didn't. No, not at all. I mean, and it impacted my family. My husband and my son have never actually seen me at work. They've heard the stories. They've, seen some pictures. And so as soon as, we rescued the family, my husband ran me home and I got in my vehicle and I went down to the fire hall and got into firefighter mode, got my gear and responded in an apparatus. And they backed into a driveway across the street and they watched the whole entire thing happen and got to actually see me do my job. And there was a lot of emotion and there was a lot of things to process in the fact of like what we actually did prior to, me just jumping into work mode. And so it required conversations and therapy and all kinds of things for all of us because it was a really big deal. Not many people can say that they, went running into a burning house to rescue people on a early morning. And my son sat in the truck and he watched the whole thing. And so for a 10-year-old to process that, it was a lot. And it's just something that I do. So I know how to process those things. And the hard part for me was that my job isn't personal. And this became very personal.
Absolutely.
As soon as they announced to us that the baby had arrived and it was a beautiful baby boy and that they had honored us by putting our initials in his name, I had no idea how to cope with that because this just became very personal.
Right.
And so that took, again, a lot of, therapy and processing and acknowledging it for what it is and understanding and going through the processes of the journey. And it's something that has impacted my family and will for life because we see them on a weekly basis. We are really close friends with them and it's an honor that we get to carry. And my son will get to tell this story for the rest of his life.
I mean, Lynette, these are actions of a hero. And I understand that our heroes really dislike being called heroes, and that's fine. And I do get it. But that was a heroic act to go in there. You put yourself in jeopardy without proper gear because you put the lives of others before yours. Whether that was a thought process or a reaction, it matters not. It is the actions of a hero. And you did that. And I can't, for the life of me, possibly understand why any team wouldn't want to ensure that was shared, because that makes the entire team part of that, part of those heroic efforts. That comes down to the unit, the department, to be able to say, this is a result of our training that we're able to offer, our teamwork that we're able to offer, our resourcing, our support. There are so many things that could be said here. However, I can't help but identify perhaps one of the reasons they couldn't say those things was because they couldn't talk about the support they were providing. They couldn't talk about the amount of adhesiveness within the team because it sounds like it was on a frequent basis non-existent. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they would have to look at some of the things, the missing pieces in order to be able to say that. And there's huge gaps.
Wow. And so, okay, I personally will not get it. I will not ever get it. I see that, there's sometimes this argument made, well, it's not because the individual is female. It's because the individual is a very petite person, 5'2", 100 pounds. How are they going to get in there? How are they going to lift the hose? But I've seen pictures of you. You are not 5'2".
No, nothing on me is small.
Well, I'm not saying that, but I've seen pictures of you on Instagram with your friends and you're taller than them all. And so unless you hang around with very, very short people, very tiny people, you can tell that you have some height, that you have the ability, is what I'm trying to say, to do the job. It's not even like they could put this, and I see this form of misogyny quite a bit where, well, it's not that she's a female. It's just that she's not as strong. and she doesn't have the ability to do it. And it comes down to this easy sort of a bullshit way to pass it off and go, well, that's why. It's not otherwise. Well, it's funny because you never fucking said that about the guy who's the same size. Okay, sure. But they can't even say this in the situation about you, Lynette.
No, absolutely not. And in the very beginning, there was, a physical test that had to be done that had never had to be done before until I started. Then it became mandatory.
Oh, that's cute.
And
that's cute. Wow.
Right?
Wow.
Yeah, the plot thickens. And so I had to go and do the CPAT, which I had to go to Calgary in order to be able to do it because we don't have anything around here and it had never been a requirement before.
Wow.
And so I think that was their attempt in hopes that I would fail it. So then I couldn't get the job. And it is a difficult test. And I think it was around 97% of females don't pass it on their first 2 tries. And I did. I passed it on my first try. And then I held the certificate for a year, and I was just shy of a year, and the next posting came available, and they told me that my certificate was expired. And so I had to go and do it again. And Calgary puts a year on their certificates, but we're not Calgary. We were just using their exam as part of it. And so they were using that because the certificate had a 1-year expiry on it. And I was like, are you serious? Like, you're actually going to make me go and do this again? And so I had to go at my own expense, and I had to go and do the physical test again, to which I passed, much to their dismay. And there was nothing that they could do.
I love that whatever's been put before you, you've just pissed them off and said, I'm going to show you that I am able to do this. I don't give a shit. I love that, Lynette.
That is the type of personality that I have is, don't tell me that I can't, because I will show you that I can. But I've gotten to the point in my life where I shouldn't have to prove myself. And I forced things for so long. I forced my way in, and I forced to prove myself, and I forced showing that I was good enough. And I had to use so much force. And last year there was a situation that arose within the department of a position that everyone knew that I wanted it, and it didn't align and it didn't flow, not on purpose. It was handcrafted by positions of authority. And I thought, you know what? I'm not going to force it, because this is leading me in a direction that I'm not meant to go. I'm meant to go in this new direction that I'm pursuing with my business, and I'm not going to force it anymore. I'm listening to alignment and flow and allowing myself to just be.
I couldn't agree with you anymore with what you said, that you ought not have to continually prove yourself. You've done that a number of times. You passed the training that was required for the outfit in the first place. Then it became a convenient mandatory requirement that you do this additional testing in Calgary. Then all of a sudden you do it again, and it's at your own expense. This sounds like a textbook form of harassment.
Yeah. Bullying, harassment, discrimination. Sad. It's really sad that this is how this has played out over the years. Like I said, it's not early times. We're not dealing with early times. We're in, the late 2000s, and this is 2023, and we're still here. And I'm still the only female, first ever and only. There's never been another one. As much as I was hoping and fingers crossed and wishing for another female to ever join, there never has been. And I'm curious to see that if there ever is, what she will actually put up with and how she will hold them to task and what kind of truths would be revealed right from the start. Because if I could go back and do things a little bit different, I would have used my voice, and I would have called things for what they were, and I would have held people accountable for their actions when it was necessary.
And I agree, absolutely. Those things, however, when you're in a situation, because what we gain from those concepts, or what we gain from that ideological base in terms of doing things differently, is because you have the experience now, and experience comes from a number of things. It's not just time that we've gotten older, we've gotten more mature, that we've gotten stronger, we've gotten to understand things more and how it should work versus how it shouldn't. But that, regardless, is very difficult, especially when you're younger in service. It's not an age thing. It comes your service time. You're younger in service. You're trying to fit in. The last thing you want is some arguments. You may win the battle, but you don't win the war. And so is it worth the fight? Is it best that, is this just going to pass by? Can we just move on from this bullshit? How is it that if I'm all of a sudden suspended for some nonsense reason, or they find a way to take my job away from me, that I'm now contributing to the family with my salary? I mean, these are real stressors that have to be taken that I feel, and as anyone else would have been dealing with at that time as well. That makes it very difficult to be able to stand for yourself and speak for yourself and fight those things. And I guess what I'm trying to say, Lynette, is for, again, the listeners, especially those who are being treated in an unprofessional manner, again, whether it be by, gender, sexual orientation, whatever, that we all have that kind of concept of you need to step up and do something, but it's terrifying because of you're really trying to make this work and you just don't want, again, to lose the war for battle won. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Here we are now. You are 4 shifts a week away from retiring with 16 years as a firefighter who has engaged in heroic acts and some traumatic experiences. Where are you now, Lynette, in terms of the person who has dealt with all this shit and tolerated, I'll use that word just in the sense that you did what you needed to do to survive. I don't think it was ever made tolerable for you. But where are you now on this journey?
In the best position I've ever been, health-wise, mentally, physically, emotionally. I'm thriving. And I am super excited to start a new chapter in impacting others with my business and be able to go all in. I've been doing it in the shadows for the last couple of years, and I'm ready to jump in with both feet and take it to the next level.
Well, let's talk about your business. Can you share with the listeners what it is you have plans for doing?
So I have a business called Fire Within Crisis Services, and I teach crisis intervention, critical incident stress management to first responders and anyone that wants to take it, because it can literally be taken by anyone. I do one-on-one trauma coaching with individuals who have experiences that they need to work through. It doesn't have to be big trauma. It can be little trauma. It can be moms having, postpartum experiences. It can be first responders. It can be anyone. Literally anyone can take advantage of the services. And then I create custom workshops for any agency in regards to healthy coping mechanisms, because I feel like that is something that we are really, really missing, and we are being reactive instead of proactive in setting people up for success. And we have too many people that are away on stress leave. And if we actually have coping mechanisms put into place so that they can successfully work through their experiences with support and empowerment, they would be able to thrive. So many people are just existing and not really living. And I would like to be able to support them and allow them to a safe space to heal through that.
How do people get services? Is this just available to people in Dawson Creek?
No, it's available anywhere. I can do the services online, which is amazing because we kind of were forced to in the last few years to be able to do that. And now I offer in person as well. So I do travel for agencies wanting courses and things brought to them. Services are available online as well. They can access anything through my website. They can get the information. They can book services. They can book appointments. Everything can be done through that, which is firewithincrisisservices.com. And they can always email or call and have a conversation and see how I can customize something for them as well.
Well, it's going to be well worth it. I mean, anyone who's listened to this knows that you are very well spoken. You're very in tune with the realities, having not just learned them, but experienced so many. And there's no doubt in my mind that it would be very comforting to be able to speak to another person who can help, but who also has been through the shit. They haven't just read about the shit, they've walked it. They've had to grab it. They know what it's like. And that puts you in a very good position to truly help people, especially those that are having trust issues or are uncomfortable because they feel a professional to whom they're going to speak really doesn't have any concept of what it's like to be a first responder. That's amazing, Lynette.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can do this anywhere. People can reach out to Lynette. You can find the website. We're going to repeat it again at the end, but reach out. There is help there, and you don't need to leave the comfort or safety as you may feel of your own home to get this help. And you are going to get it from someone who has been through the shit, including harassment, bullying, sanctuary trauma, moral injuries, and has also witnessed traumatic scenes such as, again, people who are listening to this podcast. Lynette, what would you say to my daughter, who is a female who is looking to be a firefighter? What would you say? Some things that she needs to do, she needs to watch out for. What would make her successful in her career and not have to tolerate?
Stay true to your identity. Be authentically yourself. Show up as you. Give it everything you have for you. You have nothing to prove to anyone else but yourself. And you are good enough. You are capable enough. And you are strong enough. And don't listen to the bullshit. It's just noise.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautifully said. Lynette, your story is amazing. It is absolutely amazing. And I want to take the time to thank you for your service, what you have endured physically and mentally and spiritually has been, well, it just really should not have happened. I mean, let's be honest. It should not have happened. And there are things that we tend to forgive that happened in the past, but that's not the near past. That's the distant past. And when we're talking anything with a 20 in front of it or a 2 in front of it in terms of the year, it is well past. Not that I'm making excuses for things beforehand. I'm not. But Jesus, I don't know what leg you're standing on if you're trying to say that you didn't get that this wasn't fucking right. Right? Am I right? Like, I don't get where you're coming from. I don't get it at all. Lynette, I want to give you the opportunity. If there's anything else that you would like to say, if there's any stories you would like to share, if there is any advice you would like to give, if you would like to give more information with regards to your business, I just want to completely open the floor up to you. I'm not going to ask a question, but whatever it is that you want to share, that you want people to hear about you, about what you've endured, about your business, about whatever. What is it you want to share?
Well, thank you very much. The thing that comes to mind the most was a quote that actually impacted me in being able to speak up was, "You don't have a secret, you have a story." And so, like you mentioned in forgiving, and I have forgiven for myself. I will never forget the things that happened, but I've been able to forgive. And every next level requires a new you. And the person that I was then is not the person that I am now. And it took those experiences to bring me to where I am now. And I am so fucking proud of myself and the things that I have accomplished and the person that I am now. And I wouldn't be where I am without those things happening to me and for me. And so I am actually grateful for the experiences, as horrible and awful as, some of them were. It got me to where I am right now. And I know that there is nothing that I'm not capable of. I am more than enough and I am worthy enough. And I am really excited to see where this next chapter is going to take me.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay. I just needed a second.
It's okay. You take your time. For what it's worth, I will tell you that there are going to be a lot of people who are going to feel very honored that you have shared this with them, that are going to feel very proud of what you've accomplished.
Thank you.
And I can say safely that it truly has been an honor and a pleasure to have the opportunity to speak with you, to hear your story. There's a lot that can be learned from this, a lot. I thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you wanted to add, Lynette?
So in this next chapter in my life, I know that I am uniquely qualified to help the person that I used to be. And I have, professional certifications and things, but the personal relatability is where I thrive. And so if anybody listening has a story they'd like to share or something they would like to work through, a safe space to have a conversation with somebody that has been there. Because in the fire service, it is a culture. It's a space that a lot of people don't understand. And I understand. I get it. And I get it from a completely different perspective as well, because being a female in a male dominant industry and being the only female, I see things from a completely different perspective. And if anybody, needs to have a conversation or some work they would like to start doing, I'm here. I am all about support and empowerment and being able to impact others, because that's what this is all about. A friend of mine in the very beginning said to me, "You are the only female, but just make sure you don't pull the ladder up behind you after you climb it." And that really stuck with me. And I want to make sure that I pass that on and give other people the opportunity as well.
Absolutely amazing. The other thing I definitely want you to speak to very briefly, Lynette, is how people can follow you on social media, because you are very engaging with your followers. Can you talk to people about how they can track you down?
I have Instagram and Facebook, Fire Within Crisis Services, on both platforms. And then my website, firewithincrisisservices.com. You can reach me through there as well. All the services and information, stories about me, everything is on there. And I'm very active on Instagram in my stories. I do a lot of videos and talking, and any responses and things are totally me. It's just me. I don't have any staff or anybody working with me that responds to messages. It's all me. And I love this stuff. I'm super passionate about it. It's an honor to be able to have this conversation with you and the impact that you are making in the lives of others with bringing light to the important topics that you are talking about. And I think we need to keep talking and keep talking. So if anybody wants to have a conversation, they can DM me at any time.
Beautiful. I really hope that our path crosses at some point in the future and I have the opportunity to meet you, but even more so, I would love the opportunity at some point in the future to work beside you and to really get the opportunity to, just to see you helping others and being able in any way, shape, or form to assist you with regards to that.
I would absolutely love that.
Then let's not let shit stand in the way. You've got my number. We'll make this happen.
Absolutely.
Lynette, I have a great deal of respect for you. I really do. And I really appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you so much for sharing your story. For the listeners, the big takeaway I want from this is a firefighter. I'm not saying it's a female firefighter. It's a firefighter. Doesn't matter if that's a he or a she or a they. Firefighter. And what a firefighter does is goes in to burning buildings and saves people and extinguishes the fire. That is difficult, but it becomes significantly more difficult when you are being separated by the other firefighters. You are being separated from the other firefighters, whether it's physical or mental. There was a separation made. It was clear on day one that there is us and there is you. 14 years later, this firefighter is not only stepping away with her head held nice and high, her shoulders up and beaming with pride, but she has also started a business to make sure that others are helped in the way that she couldn't be. She is wanting to look out for her brothers and sisters, and again, the way that was failed for her. And in so doing, this is a firefighter who is now burning down those bullshit fucking walls that need to come down. This is a capable individual who has proven to be heroic in the efforts that were made to do the job. there is no difference. So for anyone else out there, if you believe there is a difference with a person on your team because there is any difference between them and you, it's time for you to wake the fuck up. Get over yourself. This is a firefighter, and I would be honored if she came to my house and helped save my family. And I certainly would make sure the world knew about it. Not because it's a she, because it's a firefighter who helped in my time of need. My name is Larry Payton. I have your 6. Please have mine.
Don't go away. There's so much left to do, so many things I wanna say, and I sing, hey, don't make the change. If it rains every single day, I'll fight to blow it all away.
Lynette's a little addition at the end of this because, well, there's one thing I need you to kind of mention to bring up so that people are aware. There was a conversation, I understand, about when or if you had ever seen a dead body. Could you tell me about that?
Yeah, I was asked if I had ever seen a dead body, and I said no. And they said, well, what are you going to do when you see one? Because it's part of the job. And I said, I have no idea because I've never seen one, so I don't know how I will react. And they said, well, I'll tell you what you're not going to do. You're not going to cry. And I was like, okay. And so I didn't. I didn't want to be, the crybaby, so I didn't cry for years. But I used anger instead. I punched holes in walls at home because anger is socially acceptable. So I used that as my outlet and suppressed my other emotions, which wreaked havoc on my body for years. But I didn't cry.
That is a problem. That right there truly explains the issue when you have sanctuary trauma and you are not supported and how it leads just to things being so much worse.
Yeah, and people don't understand that when you suppress your emotions, they attach themselves to your tissues and your organs. Like emotions are meant to come out. And so they will cause you dis-ease at some point in your life. And people will have unexplained pain, unexplained illnesses, all your test results come back normal. And they tell you that you're fine. And you're like, no, I'm not. Like I had a lower back pain that just, chiropractor 3 times a week for years and years, and an eye twitch that would never go away until I actually started releasing the emotions that I had suppressed. And I was like, there goes the back pain. There goes the eye twitch.
That is the effect it has on the body. There is a physiological change because of what's going on inside, and it has to be addressed.
Absolutely. Your body keeps the score.
Absolutely. Thanks, Lynette. I appreciate your time.
It's an honor. Thank you.